And we're live, I think. Give us a minute or two. Welcome everybody. Give us a shout out in the comments. Make sure, pretty sure my mic's working. Pretty sure we're live. Uh, Thank you for joining us. I can't believe it's July already. Hopefully you all are staying cool and collected. Um, so let's get started. We're going to do two talks tonight. Ian and I. Um, and we'll just run through the intro portion here. I've got a few things to cover, so thank you for joining us. If you're new here, give us a shout out. But here's a list of all the groups that are a part of MergePHP, and we're happy you could make it. Anyone's welcome. You don't have to be a part of one of these groups. And if you don't see your group listed here, we're always open for more groups. So anyone and everyone is welcome. That's the basics there. And so every month we give away something, and the giveaway portion, official. You got to email Chris at atlantaphp.org, and the first person to do that. It wins 1 year license for any JetBrains product, and so that is. Chris, you want to? But Chris might say something at the end. I don't want to put him on the spot. I just saw his camera came on. So, yeah, first person to win, email Chris gets any JetBrains product, and it can be Data Grip or WebStorm or anything JetBrains related. So, all right. PHP support, the obligatory PHP support page. Today is July 11th. You can see kind of where we're at with 8.3. 8.2 still supported. We are all sorry for you if you do not see your PHP version listed here. Please consider upgrading, and it will make your life easier. So,
one important thing to note here is that you'll notice that those orange bars, assuming that my color blindness is not completely screwing me over here, are longer for the current and future versions of PHP. Based on an RFC accepted recently, security support is now 2 years and ends at the end of the year rather than being based on when that version was originally released. So from here on out, security support does go until the 31st of December each year. So it's a little bit cleaner rather than kind of having to guess at when exactly things will roll over. Now, you still want to keep on the latest version of PHP if you can possibly afford it, particularly as backward compatibility issues have, like, PHP is pretty good about that, and PHP 8.4 is going to be no exception here. Better to kind of stay on the latest version rather than letting things build up. So now you're seeing a little over 2 years, or about 2 years exactly, of kind of active updates to the runtime, and then another slightly over 2 years of security fixes for everybody who is complaining that if they pulled things from direct from source rather than from their distribution, that the security fix window was too short, winding them up on an EOL version.
That's good to know. I'm glad they extend the security. That is always a good thing. I know. I think Python had a little bit longer, like extended support. So I wonder how it lines up now with the new LTS. I guess we don't don't really
It's
have
not
an LTS.
LTS. It's
Yeah,
we don't have
current
specific
versions.
versions of PHP
Yeah.
that do long-term support. It's just every version.
Yep. All right. So upcoming conferences and events. We've got some here coming up soon. Some of these are online, and if you see something you're interested in, um, uh, or you're watching this later, and you don't see your conference listed, please let us know, and we're happy to get it added. Um, Something that we're a part of, MergePHP here, is Cascadia PHP, and Ian's going to say a few words about that.
Sure. So, Tim Bond trolling me notwithstanding, Cascadia PHP is back this year. I had the privilege of attending it in 2018 and 2019, and it is in the other weird city, Portland, Oregon, downtown at Portland State University at their conference center. They are mixing up the uh, track format a little bit this year. So as they're coming back, again, the first time since 2019, they're doing a mix of talks and tutorials on each day with, I believe, the ability to buy tickets for not just the entire 3-day event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but also 1 or 2 days as well. Tickets are now available, and with a blind bird discount, they're actually pretty affordable. If you go to cascadiaphp.com and hit the ticket registration link, you can buy tickets now. The CFP is closed. I don't have information on when speakers will be announced, but you've got a little bit of time, and that will allow you to lock in the 30% discount for blind bird tickets. So get that while it's hot. I already have my plane tickets to fly up there. I'm looking forward to making it to Portland this year for that, rather than, well, helping volunteer at a conference rather than this year organizing one.
Yep. Yep. Sounds good. Yeah, and Portland's a fun city to visit. So it's coming up here in 3 months. October, is it middle October? I think,
It's
right?
it's toward the end of October. I believe it's 24th through the 26th. It's whatever that last Thursday, Friday, Saturday in October is. So we are sitting at, let's see here, we're mid-July, August, September, October, about 3.5 months out.
Cool. Coming up soon. So buy your tickets now. All right. And yeah, so just uh, you can find us here on the interwebs. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And that's pretty much it. We didn't really decide. Am I going first, Ian? You want me to go first? I'm happy to go first.
Yes, go ahead and go first because I have like another slide and a half to finish.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So yeah, next month come back next month. We'll have announcement soon on the talk for next month. But if you're interested in speaking, I think there's a link somewhere. It's mphp.io/speakers, I believe. We should probably add that somewhere. All right, so let me switch over to the other slides. Not that button. That button. All right. So I was interested in giving a talk on how to pick the best blog platform. I think as PHP developers, we're all very familiar with content management systems, and having used a variety of content management systems and blogging platforms over the years, the choices have gotten quite complex, as you can see here. And this is the top 20 that I I'm summarizing like the headless into one because there's probably like 30 different options or possible combinations there for the headless option. But yeah, there are plenty of things to choose from. So hopefully this talk, it's going to be a shorter one. I kind of put this together this week um, with the help of the GPTs, and I think we got some good advice here on how to pick a good blogging platform. So, and as you'll see, it's not all host it yourself kind of stuff. I know we're all super technical, but my hope is that depending on what you're wanting to do, you can kind of use this and give this advice to somebody who is maybe less technical than us, and that will help them make a decision on what blogging platform to use. And so a lot of this stuff is services that you would pay for. I mean, I guess all of them you're going to pay for one way or another, but there should be something here for everyone. And like as we get started in talking about like what blogging is, I think really at the end of the day, you're writing and composing articles, and for some people blogging means like, well, all I care about is a newsletter. So you'll see in here tools that are more focused on just the newsletter side of things. So I think we got our bases covered on anything possible that has a blogging feature to it. From this list, anything from this list is a good option. But let's get into exactly what are the choices here. So as let's PHP developers, we're all familiar with WordPress, and here's kind of like some different use cases, I'll say, and I've kind of grouped together similar ones that meet these different use cases. So WordPress, Wix, or Squarespace, great for general use cases. They've got very friendly UIs that you can drag and build a website, and they've got a wide range of like templates, and you kind of build your website out how you want it to look. And also they all have you can sell stuff, right? They all have e-commerce functionality built in if you're looking for e-commerce. So that being said, if you and this is kind of out of the scope of like there's a lot of different options for WordPress, but I wrote a quick short little blog here earlier this year on if you're interested in self-hosting WordPress, this is really the best way to do it. SpinUp WP does a really great job. The $12 virtual machine from Vultr or DigitalOcean is plenty powerful enough for WordPress. And then the Cloudflare APO plugin, as you can see, makes a huge difference in terms of performance, and the security from Cloudflare is much appreciated. All right, so our next kind of little use case for depending on what you're looking for here, micro.blog is a great option. That's what I currently use. It's really simple to get started. The cost is very affordable, and it's like same with Medium. It's like Medium's free, but micro.blog is very affordable. So it's simple to get started. And if you're just looking for something small and easy to use, both of these are great options. I think they both have really good writing experiences, and they both support Markdown, which is really nice. and they both have communities built in. Medium, you can talk with other people in the comments, and micro.blog is they have like a federation feature with the Fediverse, and there's a good little community there as well. So both of those are good options if that fits your use case. All right, so if you're looking for something that does newsletters or is more kind of newsletter centric blogging, Ghost is going to be a great option. Substack, Button Down, Beehive, or Mail Coach. Mail Coach is written in PHP by a company out of Europe. So definitely check out any of these companies. They're going to be great options for you there. And they have a lot of great integrations depending on which one you go with. But it's really great for if you're looking for monetizing your newsletter. These are going to have the tools that you need to get started there as well. All right, so if you're wanting something that's just super minimalist, very distraction free, the write.as or write as, and then I think the open source version of that is called Write Freely. And this is just great for somebody that wants something that's secure and private and simple. I think a lot of writers would go this direction. More like traditional author, if they're looking for a small little blog, both of these are good options. And again, there's like probably 30 or 50 different versions of the static site generators. Hugo, I think, deserves special mention just because it's been around for so long, and it's extremely flexible. But if you haven't used a static site generator before, the headless option is super great, and there's a lot of different ways to do that. And obviously, like there's JavaScript ways to do that, and there's also PHP ways to do that. There's a variety of different languages that you could use, and then you can variety of different like headless options as well. So this is more for the technical person who wants like full control over the site and really understands what the benefits and the drawbacks are to this approach. All right. So all of these have that are more focused on like monetization. They do have blogging functionality to them, but if you're looking for something that is blogging is available but not like the primary feature, like all of these have that is more if you're looking for monetization and a variety of different features. Patreon, Coffee, or Ghost would all be great options here. If you're very business oriented, LinkedIn articles there's huge network on LinkedIn, and if you're talking about professional growth and want to reach a wide audience, more professional kind of blogging, LinkedIn articles is a good choice there as well. If you're a developer and you just want something that is not headless, but like a platform where you can talk to other developers, and I think Medium might actually be a good one here as well. But Hashnode or HackerNoon are great platforms. So let's see. So what I did is I took all of that, and I think what I'm going to do, let me switch windows again because I created a flowchart that kind of shows you what we just talked about. So let me swap over to my image here. So this is kind of my flow chart here. It's basically just what we talked about, but figure this is just another way to kind of go through it. And yeah, just, you got to decide, like, what is your primary goal? Do you want ease of use and simplicity, customization and control, monetization and growth? And then from there, do you want a built-in community? Yes. Okay. Well, then, these would be great options. If you want to kind of get started from scratch and kind of build something in your own audience, that is WordPress, Wix, or Squarespace. And then are you tech savvy here? Hugo and the static site generators, or no, WordPress or Ghost. And then here at the bottom, monetization and growth. And I think newsletters is a big part of that. So there's a yes, no there. And yes, being Substack, Beehive, and Mail Coach. No, no, because they have, blogging and newsletter isn't their only feature, but Patreon, Coffee, or Ghost. So once you kind of go through that flow chart, you got to evaluate the specific features, kind of out of the scope of this talk, but kind of go through the features, the pricing plans, what integrations they have, how easy it is to build the thing that you want, and then how easy it is to market the thing that you're working on. And from there, that should get you what you want, and you'll be able to pick the best platform for your needs. So any questions? I hope that helped people that are considering getting started blogging. I think it's a lot of fun and can be a great rewarding experience. It doesn't have to be technical either. So, you can just kind of go old school and blog about whatever's on your mind. It's always nice to kind of put your thoughts down on paper and get your ideas out there. So that's going to be pretty much it for me. Ian, if you are ready to go on your side.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in just 1 second. Moving all the windows out of the way so that I have an entire screen dedicated to what I will be sharing. View. Screen. View. Don't show the toolbar. And alrighty. So, normally you would see me or Tim presenting this toward the end of the year. However, PHP 8.4 Alpha 1 is now out. And if you want to, you can pull this down and play with it yourself now. Now, some of the features that I'm going to go over in this presentation aren't quite live yet. The RFCs have been accepted. So this is going to be a mix of things you can test out now and things you can expect come later on this year. If you want to follow along with this presentation, you can go to en.im/php84a as an alpha, merge, and skip ahead. I have a lot of links in this presentation. So yeah, July 4th was actually the release for PHP 8.4 Alpha 1. Thanks to Eric Mann and the other junior or rookie release managers for bringing that across the line. Feature freeze is in August, so just a little over a month away. So we should be seeing some additional functionality hit based on the accepted RFCs. This will be releasing a little bit earlier this year if everything goes according to plan, rather than releasing in early December. We're looking at late November before Thanksgiving, with the idea that there are 4 release candidates rather than 6, just to get things, get people deploying this maybe before they all go out for Christmas. If you want more information on the release schedule or who's maintaining kind of the build process and release for 8.4, those pieces of information are all available in the wiki. As well, we have, if you were here earlier when we were going over that PHP release timeline slide, or support timeline slide rather, and I mentioned the longer security support, there was an RFC that passed recently that extended that support and kind of crystallized a few other things around when you can and can't merge in new features of various sizes relative to the PHP release process. That's that bottom link if you want more information there. Now, in this presentation, which is going to be somewhere between the length of a lightning talk and a full talk, as fair warning, I'm going to gloss over some of the smaller features and additions and such, but I will have those linked. We'll go over kind of what's new, what's changed, and what has been removed or deprecated. Some of those items I'll kind of cover the new pieces and note when there's kind of a deprecation hidden in there or a BC break hidden in there, but it'll be kind of a mix throughout this presentation. You can actually get PHP 8.4 Alpha now, depending on OS. Windows builds aren't available from what I checked earlier today, but if you're on another OS, then you should be able to get them. Note my sources toward the bottom of this. PHP Watch and the upgrading and news files were helpful. In addition, I did check PHP RFC Watch and caught a few cases in there as well. Now, if you want to get the alpha right now, you'll need to tap the PHP tab on Homebrew, and that should say PHP 8.4 rather than PHP 8. I will fix those slides later. But brew install PHP at 8.4 does work. It will not put this at the command line by default. If you really want to run 8.4 alpha right now, there are commands to do that, and they'll display when you when the installation finishes. But given that you don't want to really run this in production, you can kind of use the fully qualified path to run the command and say pipe in or tell it to run like sci-sh or something like that if you want a REPL. This, last I checked, is not on 3v4l.org, so you will have to run this locally. Now, if you're on RHEL, Red Hat, something rather, Alma Linux, Rocky, etc., Remy has a software collection for this that you can pull down. I was going to include Andrej information on here, but when I checked earlier, Launchpad was down, and I didn't want to link to a PPA without confirming that 8.4 Alpha 1 was actually available there. Docker is a really easy way of pulling this down. If you grab like, PHP 8.4 Alpha 1, FP, and Alpine 320, that will get you the PHP FPM version of this. You can also pull the CLI version, and that goes off without a hitch. Usually, those releases will pop up a couple days after things are released on php.net, and this time is no exception. If you want to build things yourself, the alphas are linked there. Don't deploy this in production and then come crying to me that you wanted to be on cutting edge and you got cut by the cutting edge. Now, let's talk about new features and improvements and that sort of thing. We will wind up sliding right into deprecations and removals and stuff toward the end of this presentation, because honestly, there are not that many of them. But here we go. So this is one of the cases where we do not yet have this in the alpha. These property hooks allow you to effectively mimic double underscore get and double underscore set, but just for one property, and basically clean up either input or output without either declaring a separate property for whatever revised version of what you're looking at, or declaring double underscore get and then ignoring most of the ways of pulling that. And likewise on set, if you need to split something up or do some processing before saving that variable or that function call argument into a property, you can totally do that. This means that you can kind of show a more clean interface to end users, move things around under the hood while avoiding kind of getter and setter confetti that you would normally see, while also avoiding just having magic methods that you're not quite sure how to statically analyze. So pretty big improvement. This will land in 8.4, but based on my reading of the release notes, is not there yet. The link at the top here is to the RFC for more details. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's by far the biggest single feature. There are a whole lot of kind of new functions and such in 8.4, not the least of which is these array functions. So if you're coming from JavaScript, there are so many cases where you pull in like Lodash or something like that and do, or now with newer ES versions, you can just do .sum or .all or what have you directly on an array. That behavior is now kind of supported in PHP core with these array find key all and any methods. You might see an equivalent of array any in another language as .sum, SOME, where you pass in, you say, okay, for this array, tell me whether any of these things return true when a callable is called on one of those entries. So this just improves the already pretty strong array methods that you can use in PHP between array map, array filter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And since they're implemented in core, they're going to be a bit faster than if you were to polyfill, than which there is a polyfill available. Now, for dates, you've got a few new methods here. The ability to get and set time at microsecond resolution. You were able to do that via the set time method, but you couldn't. You would have to kind of pass the existing time in there if you wanted to only modify the microseconds attribute, whereas these just let you surgically modify that one piece, or get that one piece without doing anything else. Create from timestamp is a constructor thing that is, well, absolutely wonderful, because there are so many cases where I will pull a timestamp, Unix timestamp from somewhere, and then concatenate or do a like date time immutable, create from format, and then format u, and then you take the Unix timestamp, you cast it to a string, and then you pass it in, and it's a complete mess. This does away with all that and provides you this nice interface. It's like, look, you pass in a Unix timestamp, you get a date time or date time immutable out. So once I hit 8.4 on a number of client projects, this is going to come into use pretty quickly. One thing to note here is that for minimizing BC breaks, from what I have seen, this does not modify date time interface. I don't completely quote me on that. It might, but all the documentation I've seen is that it only interacts with datetime and datetime immutable. On the security front, we have a couple of new algorithms supported on Sodium and a couple new algorithms supported on OpenSSL. On the Sodium side, this Aegis 128 and 256 are AES family algorithms for symmetric encryption that are, faster better because they're faster. Jumping down to the bottom of this slide, because we're still talking about algorithms, on the asymmetric side, we now support curve 448 and curve 25519. For everyone who is using the cool, newish, not actually that new, but don't tell that to certain version control systems that still don't support them. But ED25519 keys for like SSH and such. Well, OpenSSL now supports those, and PHP allows you to use that OpenSSL support as well directly in the language. Now, in terms of just general security by padding links of things, if you are using bcrypt to hash passwords, which is fine. Yes, Argon exists, but whatever. Your default cost has been 10, which that means you're running 2 to the 10 rounds of bcrypt. People just kind of use that default and don't change it. So from a security perspective, as computers have gotten faster, it makes sense to bump up that cost and make password hashes more secure, so that if you pull a LastPass and leak absolutely everything, then it takes a little bit longer for everybody to crack that. So that cost has gone up from 10 to 12, which is actually 4 times the effort to spend per hash. Additionally, temp name file names are now longer. Not as much of a security thing, but it allows for potentially not colliding to file names if you're creating a lot of them. Next up, let's talk about numbers. I mean, yes, security has a whole lot of numbers and symmetric encryption and such in it, but let's talk about numbers that you actually use more directly. Rounding has been improved. A lot of underlying implementation details have been cleaned up in PHP 8.4. If you look at the upgrading document that I linked earlier, that goes into some detail on like, hey, there was this buggy case and this buggy case and this buggy case. We fixed them. So not only did that stuff get fixed, but we got a little bit better rounding precision as well. And there are additional rounding modes available so that you can, for example, round a number towards 0 or always round a number up rather than just rounding the half up or half down. Yes, you could just use ceiling or floor methods for that, but having a more comprehensive rounding method makes a fair amount of sense. And not only does this apply to the standard round method, but also to the international extensions number format or round method. And these rounding methods have also been added to BC Math, which is also now faster thanks to Saki, one of the release managers for PHP 8.4. Also, if you want to raise things to different powers in a IEEE 754 floating point compatible or compliant way, there is a new method or a new base function for that. Now, from numbers, we go to strings, not just strings like being casted to numbers. If you want to split emojis or sequences of emojis in a reasonable way rather than like splitting what looks like one emoji into its 4 underlying parts, you want to use the new grapheme string split method rather than the multi-byte string split method. I keep saying method, I mean global function, bear with me. That there is a polyfill for this at that link, but for example, if you have like a family emoji of 4 different people and then a train emoji going through a tunnel, the MB string split would split that up into kind of its constituent characters, which would take your what looks like 2 emojis and turn it into like 6. Grapheme string split would actually split that along the kind of semantic boundaries. So you would go from 2 characters as 1 string to 2 characters as 2 strings in an array. Continuing the multi-byte fun, we have the ability to uppercase or lowercase the first character in a string, and to trim a multi-byte string. So nice little quality of life improvements on the multi-byte side. I believe that all of these things are polyfillable if you want them now rather than 6 months from now. On the DOM side, not going to go into a whole lot of detail here, but if you are using the DOM extension for parsing HTML or XML, there have been pretty significant improvements added with PHP 8.4 around not only HTML5, but standards compliance, because there's like it's actually a living spec. I've linked the RFCs associated with that here. For other items, if you've been really annoyed by having to throw constructor calls in parentheses every time you create, say, a new date time immutable and then immediately set something on it, you can now drop those parentheses in 8.4.
Ian, you're cutting out a bit there. Do you want to repeat like the last minute? Sorry.
How far back do I need to go?
Just the last slide.
Basically, all I said here was I have links here to the RFCs. There's basically one RFC for everything that every bullet point that I have here. And if you use the DOM extension, then take a look at those RFCs. I do not, so I'm not, other than like Symfony DOM crawler or something like that, will use this under the hood. So there may be improvements to that as a result of this once PHP 8.4 comes out. But other than that, the RFCs are going to do a better explanation of these improvements than I will. How are we on connectivity? Did that come through okay?
Yeah, it's good now. It might have been just me. I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to get too far ahead. And then, so yeah.
Are you still using Spectrum? Because I hear they had an outage recently. Anyway, so I guess we're on the second item here. The we're starting to get some cool uses of PHP attributes. The one that will land in PHP 8.4 is this deprecated attribute. And what that'll do is if you throw that at the top of a method or property, or I believe constant, then, and I believe this will work on classes as well. The RFC is linked there for more information, but that will actually trigger a either e-deprecated or e-user deprecated um, error that can then be handled or ignored at the runtime level without having to go through the whole like trigger underscore error uh, stuff within each function or method or what have you. So nice, quick, light way of adding those warnings using the attributes functionality that was added back in, I believe, PHP 8.0. Now, next we've got the ability to pull or clear HTTP response headers if you use, say, file get contents to grab those headers. Now, the way that you do this now is you run file get contents, and then magically this global, I believe it's HTTP response headers variable gets set, and you read that, and that's super non-obvious and looks like spooky action at a distance. So this is definitely the better way of doing that, because calling a global function rather than accessing this like weird global-ish variable that doesn't look like a super global makes a bit more sense. And I actually use file get contents with HTTP stuff relatively often for like one-off scraping scripts and such. So definitely looking forward to this. Speaking of pulling things over HTTP, if you're using curl for that, then you can now not play the guessing game of what curl constants or curl flags and bit masks correspond to which features. And in curl underscore version, you can get an array back that just maps those features normally. My guess is eventually you'll see this in like Symfony HTTP client or Guzzle. Of course, it'll probably take a little while for them to convert over to this because they already know what the bit masks mean. But eventually, once you hit a version of those libraries that requires PHP 8.4 plus, this will make that code a lot more readable. If next here, if you have an HTTP multi-part request, normally those will get parsed on post. But if you are using like a patch or a put, then PHP is not going to do that for you by default. This request parsed body method allows you to say, hey, actually go ahead and grab this input stream, parse it out as multi-part input, and then return the same structure that you would normally see populated into $_post and $_files. So this is going to be super useful for frameworks. Again, my guess is you're maybe going to see that more as frameworks increase their minimum PHP version, but this allows for kind of consistent processing of multi-part requests that was kind of a mess previously if you weren't posting to a given endpoint. Next, you've got, if you pull up PHP info, whether that is in browser or whether that's a command line, it'll now include an attribute for integer size. So basically that boils down to like, are you on a 32 or 64-bit machine, or it was PHP compiled for that. And so, okay, this is a 64-bit integer or 32 for kind of debugging purposes. Speaking of debugging, closures now provide a bit more info back when you call debug info on them. And in things like stack traces, you'll see more detail on what exactly the closure is. Again, handy for debugging those things. Next up, the SQL parser infrastructure underlying PDO and actually the class structure of PDO itself now supports varying both parsing and class kind of inheritance based on what driver is underneath. So you now have like MySQL or Postgres or I believe Oracle or SQLite instances of PDO extending those. So you can start adding database specific features because at this point, people tend to use PDO to the exclusion of kind of the more custom implementation specific extensions for those databases. So it's like, okay, might as well improve the thing that everybody's using. Except in the case of Postgres, apparently, where they just added a bunch of methods to the Postgres kind of native extension, and I've linked exactly what that looks like in these presentations. In addition, reflection, somewhere in the same vein to closure, debug info improving. There are some improvements around constants in various pieces of introspection and reflection that that got merged. You can see a little bit more about that in the link. SPL object storage now can seek. There are some improvements to XML reader and writer operation on streams, which again, that's not how I tend to interact with XML. So I'll let the RFC explain what happened there. And then there were various performance improvements across the board. Some cases of like highly multi-threaded floating point parsing. There are a number of things there. So PHP 8.4, unlike MySQL 8.0, might actually be a little bit faster than the version before it. Now, there are some changes here that are technically backward compatibility breaks, but also drastically clean up how some of these extensions interact, particularly on error cases. There's a whole lot of like instead of returning false, throw errors or exceptions in a number of extensions here or kind of pieces of core. We've seen that come across in a number of recent releases of just kind of tightening these things down. And 8.4 is honestly one of the larger releases in terms of these kind of quality of life improvements of like getting exceptions rather than having to check for truthiness every single time you pull a thing. In addition, there were a number of resources that got converted to types in 8.4. BC Math will have this. And actually, the BC Math numbers thing, it's, I guess, a little bit different because as I recall, BC Math doesn't necessarily. No, I'm second guessing myself. I know GMP for the longest time used resources rather than class. I think that got cleaned up recently, and now BC Math is kind of doing the same thing. This is not implemented yet, from what I can tell, but work is being done for this, and there have been some improvements to BC Math that have already landed. If you're using ODBC, connections and results are now objects rather than resources. and likewise for some pieces of SOAP client. So yeah, a nice improvement of moving away from resources and into class instances. But if you were checking for whether something was a resource prior or if an underlying library was, that will need to change to checking for objects or nullable objects. Now, there is this new kind of stream bucket method or stream buckets class. Best to defer to the RFC on what exactly that does. And in the vein of putting types on things that didn't have types before, a number of pieces of either core or extensions did get types on their constants, including in some cases Boolean types. For example, PHP debug and PHP ZTS, but PDO has some of those as well. You see kind of a theme of improved type safety across the language in each subsequent release. And while there aren't a ton of headline features in 8.4 in terms of language structure other than the one that I showed you at the beginning of this presentation, these quality of life improvements just kind of make the language more reliable. If you are using the JIT, there are some configuration changes of how that JIT is turned on. There's now a flag for it rather than just like setting the buffer size to 0. And then technically a BC change or BC break, the intern string buffer default size on op cache is now larger because we've figured out how to not necessarily download more RAM, but to build machines with more RAM. Also, regular expressions are now better in 8.4 thanks to a much newer version of PCRE2. If you go to the link that is linked on this slide, you'll see a lot more detail on that courtesy of PHP Watch. There are things like not necessarily needing a minimum specified for things like a capture group size. But this linked article goes into a lot more detail on what exactly got improved. So let's talk about some BC breaks. A lot of them are easy enough to work around. A number of extensions got moved from core to PECL because people weren't really using them in a standard PHP install. If you need them, pull them back from PECL. PHP built-in web server for folks running that. The recursive fallback to index.php does behave differently in this release. It is going to look a little bit harder for that, even in cases where you requested something that looked like a file because it had a dot whatever at the end of the file name. Previously, that would 404 rather than trying to traverse back. Now it will, if the file doesn't exist, then it'll look for index.php and run that instead. As mentioned, PCRE being updated, there are some changes to behavior. Simple XML, there are some changes there as a result of bug fixes of things getting into infinite loops. This alphabet soup stir CSPN, bonus points to anybody in the chat who has ever used that. There was some buggy behavior there that has been fixed, and OpenSSL and curl now need to be newer to compile against as dependencies for PHP 8.4 to allow for things like the curve 255.19 and curve 448. And last but not least, there are a number of deprecations here. The biggest of those is that if you have in your function signature this string or whatever equals null kind of implicit default where it's actually nullable, but you only half admit it, you will need to start putting the actual nullability operator of that question mark or just pipe null in those function signatures so that the parameter type is actually correct. This has been possible since PHP 7.1, so you're not going to break your code by doing this. You shouldn't have any users running 7.1 or 7.0 or earlier at this point anyway. So if you throw the question mark on there, then that resolves the deprecation warning. Those will turn into hard errors on PHP 9. Next, session set save handler. There was an old way of calling that just provided a bunch of callables as positional parameters. That is now deprecated. It now expects an instance of session handler interface. So a little bit of cleanup there. Session handler interface, I believe, has been around since 7.4. You've got a little bit of time to clean that up, and while still maintaining a fair amount of backward compatibility to older versions of PHP. And then there's this curl-opt binary transfer constant that didn't actually do anything. That is now deprecated, will be gone as of PHP 9. PHP session IDs being passed by URL parameters. I did not know that this was in core. I think I have seen this before, but very much a security anti-pattern, and it's now going to be deprecated. And the kind of auto-filling of this, I believe, is going to go away in 9.0. We've got a few other pieces here in terms of like date period and such. Just older ways of calling things are being deprecated so that the newer, kind of more consistent, more type-safe ways are being preferred, and the older deprecated, less type-safe ways will go away in 9.0. The escape question marks in Postgres, that is being deprecated because now that it is using the custom SQL parser under the hood, you don't have to do as crazy escaping things because it's just kind of doing the right thing on its own. And that's really it. I realize I didn't go into a ton of detail on some of these items because this was kind of a lightning talk-ish thing that turned out to be less of a lightning talk. But as we get closer to the PHP 8.4 GA, certainly pull this down, test it, find bugs, report them. You find a bug, you report it now, that decreases the chance that it winds up in PHP 8.4.0. And you can pull this down and have fun with it now. And it's a lot. This release is not like a PHP 7.4 or 8.0 or 8.1, where there's a lot of kind of language level quality of life improvements, syntactic sugar sort of stuff. But it does present a number of kind of solid improvements, a lot of convenience methods and such, or convenience global functions that didn't exist previously. So I'm certainly looking forward to switching to this either shortly after it launches in late November or maybe at PHP 8.4.1. So with that, I'll open it up for questions in the chat, and you can, again, find these slides at in.im/PHP 8.4a merge. More information on some of these things is available at php.watch, which I did link earlier in the presentation.
I dropped a link to the slides there in chat. I don't know. I think it worked. While we're waiting on questions, I just want to remind everybody, thank you for joining us. We are moving from Slack over to Discord. So if you want to join us and the rest of the PHP community, You can go to phpc.chat, and there is a MergePHP channel there. Here, I'm going to drop a link for everybody. And some other places I think that you can support PHP on Dredge that Ian mentioned. Has Patreon, and then there's the PHP Foundation, php.foundation, the php.foundation. So here's those links. Let's see, and then I think that's working. Kind of maybe didn't work on some of them. I don't know. You guys can figure it out. It doesn't look great on my end, but hopefully those links showed up okay. And then we're always looking for speakers. So I didn't really post the link before, but if you're interested in speaking for Merge, it's here is the link for that. Let's see how bad the link. Yeah, that one looks bad too. I don't know. We'll figure out how to link, add links in chat, but hopefully it looks okay on your end. Great. So any questions for either of us on blog platforms or upcoming PHP features in 8.4?
All right. Well, again, thank you all for attending. I would say my guess is that the JetBrains license giveaway is still live, so drop an email on that to have a pretty good chance of winning a 1-year subscription to a JetBrains product, whether that's Storm, Data Grip, etc. And we will see y'all at the next one.
Thank you all for joining us. And email Chris at Atlanta PHP. We'll see you all next month.